Shimoge here again. Thank you to my returning viewers. For my new people, since I've been here many times, I'm gonna give you a quick greeting, Ka Kankoza. Welcome newly, and then I'll give you 2 ways to find me for more information. Look up Shimogen K Rom, Chimaoge, then space NKE, then space ROM. That's my metaphysically correct name. Yes, I got it through thought and prayer. I know most people don't use names in that form, but that's what I use. And then I'll also give you my government name, Chimoge Chijoke Ibe. Chimoge Chijoke Ibe. That last name is spelled IBE. Anyway, and also just know that I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where I'm broadcasting from. And I was born in Washington, D.C. Anyway, Matrilineal Village, Eben Mojave. Patrilineal Reference Point Village, all you You get it, you get it. Anyway, let me get into it. This is a very serious subject. This is a subject I've been thinking about quite a lot, but I decided to talk about it now because I just saw at least the headline and thumbnail. Calling my ancestors again. Let me stand. I just saw the title, aka tagline, aka headline, and thumbnail for a video that was talking about a certain type of relationship dynamic. I don't want to say the full thing now, just because I'm not sure how much of it I can say, honestly. I need to explore. Because not everything I see, I'm sure I can verbalize for different reasons. But I'm deciding to talk about an aspect of it because clearly what it was showing, at least the idea was projecting. Again, I haven't seen the video yet, but clearly the idea it was projecting is that there was a certain type of unhealthy romantic relationship dynamic, and it was basically just saying, look at this. So without going into that too much, I just want to talk about how it was clear that the individuals involved were not healthy. Okay. And there was an aspect of clear male supremacy in the video, or at the very least, the dynamic played upon it. I'll explain more in the future. Thank you to all my viewers. Every view is a blessing. I've registered viewers. Please comment as well. I appreciate every comment. Every comment is a blessing. I read the comments at my discretion. And also, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me get some paper to hit. I'm with my dear. This is like drums. This is one set of paper. Okay. Yeah, that'll go into music somehow. Anyway. You know what? I think I'll say more. I just want to say two things as a disclaimer. One, I think that because we understand collectively so little about relationships in the world today, we need to be careful when using language and ideas from the modern common narrative about relationships to judge relationships. And I'll leave it at that. Two, I follow the law of the U.S. And again, what I'm going to talk about is going to touch on something. Law is not universal in the world today. It can pose problems. But I'm just standing in the U.S. and the video, I assume, was talking about a dynamic in the U.S. So I'm just going to say that I obey and follow the law in the U.S. But at the same time, I've many times been critical of the law, and I just want to say the law is far from perfect. And I'm saying that because an aspect of what was being discussed in the video was a dynamic that at least on its face, I don't know about the details, maybe there's some other corners of the law, but on its face is not legal in the US today. And I'm being very careful. And keep in mind, this is not the full depth of my opinion. And I'll just leave it at that. But I'm just saying this. The video dealt with a dynamic that involved, and I'll just say involving the exchange of money in a romantic interaction. And I'm just going to say two things about that overall concept. One, there are definitely ways in which that can be unhealthy, and I'll leave it at that. Two, at the same time, that is not really one situation, you see. So because of that, I don't think it's appropriate for every situation. And again, I follow US law, but I'm just stating that I think it should be amended. And to, just to say frankly, there are many, many people who have an opinion similar to mine. And this has been said, it's not a new opinion. But I don't think it is appropriate for the law to criminalize romantic interaction solely because money was involved somehow. Let me walk. I'm ready you hug, 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 I'm ready you hug. So what am I saying here? I think that when the law focuses on romantic interactions from that nexus, it ends up um, criminalizing and therefore either preventing or making harder because some situations still happen. It just ends up messing with certain situations that are not necessarily bad. And then here's my bigger point: it makes it hard to really look at the bad situations. I do want to draw attention to something. Um, I made a video a few months ago about I guess, musician and media mogul P. Diddy and how he's clearly guilty. Um, Let me just comment on that because it's related. This is about how those laws can make it hard to look about what was truly bad. You see, P. Diddy was forced to pay out a $20 million settlement for violating someone in a civil court. That is not an innocent person. Even when the law is imperfect, we have to admit that at some point, if a very unusual and heavy penalty is handed out, and there is just no evidence to categorically disprove it, and then in P. Diddy's case, there was literally video of him uh, committing acts of evil that was made public. You see, when that sort of thing happens, the person's clearly guilty. You see. So when stuff happened in the criminal court, and again, I'm of the belief that adjudication should happen differently. Like the structure of adjudication should be different, but I'll go into that in the future. When things went to criminal court, I think it was pretty weak that they ended up just convicting him of really exchanging money. And I'm not going to talk about the type of punishment he was handed out. You know me, I'm for house arrest, not the box. But even if they had just put him under house arrest, if they said the reason they were doing that is because of the exchange of funds, that's really sacrilege. Because obviously he did some of the worst crimes possible. That action itself is not. I mean, again, and I'm just gonna midway through this, I'm gonna just say, you know, I don't want to keep philosophizing about it. I've made my position clear, but I'll just say, no matter what philosophy you are about, um, exchanging funds down there, that's nowhere in the same league as what he's clearly guilty of. So that has to be changed. And obviously, I'm of the, because there's a lot of talk of him being released soon. I'm of the belief that, we just need a house arrest until further notice. Let me move. So what am I saying here? The video I was talking about, it was an interview of, and I'm not going to use the terms they used, but it was an interview of a person who, and these are two male individuals. One male individual, they use a term that begins with P, and they said that this male individual is the one who, in exchange for funds, and again, I just want to note, regardless of what I said about the law, my opinion stands before. These interactions are not within the bounds of the law, at least based off of what was clearly shown. Just saw 11:11. Let's make a wish. Let's all improve the law. Thank you very much. Anyway, I just want to note that, but I'm describing this because I have an educational purpose here. So this individual whose term began with a P apparently makes, or at least will show other people, individuals, in exchange for money. And then the other individual, again, these are two male individuals, whose term began with T, um, who provides the fund. Now, um, again, I haven't watched the video, but I'm just gonna be honest. That looks like a very odd dynamic. Let me move. Anyway, without going too much into detail, that seems like a very odd dynamic. Um, but what am I getting at here? When you see certain odd dynamics like that, and I'm just gonna further my point by saying this, and again, I try not to overspeak about the details of romance, just because I don't want, because I don't, I'm not in everyone's I'm not in every relationship, obviously, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But at the same time, even if you say you made that interaction legal, um, just say that interaction became legal, like it was within the bounds of the law, but you still had the middle person and the other person. You see, if you still keep as many of the trappings of that situation there as possible while making it legal, that's still kind of a useless interaction. Because at the end of the day, um, if you want to have a romantic interaction with someone, generally speaking, there's no reason you can't talk to them directly. You see. And given the fact that that video exists, it seems like the relationship between those two is stronger than the relationship between the seeker and again, it's not clear. Is there one person they have a relationship with? Are there many? Again, it's just not clear. That's just a strange dynamic. Let me move. And again, I'm just saying, given the context of our world today, it's stunning to see a video like that. And I'm just going to say this, normal connotations basically were on both individuals. What does that mean? Uh, I mean, there's a lot there. Let me just say two things. One, it doesn't look like the audience is supposed to view them well. And then two, it looks as if these individuals are going for or trying to say that they're good the way they are. And that's just because of how it seems they presented themselves. Now, obviously, since that video caught my attention, I'm going to watch it and I'll later report on what I saw. Again, we were just on Inquiry. So I'm going to debut a new segment here on Chimoge's Comments called Eagle. So the Eagle will have something to see about that. But I just want to talk about a different aspect of it. You see, it doesn't seem like either individual looked after their health. And I'll just leave it like that. And I also want to say the type of energy both of them had seemed to be in line with a lot of male supremacy and male supremacist movements, you see. Again, perhaps I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not really intimately familiar with that world. Let me move. So I'm not really intimately familiar with that world, but you know, it just doesn't seem, it just seems like a male supremacist vibe. I'll just say that for two reasons. One, like most male supremacist environments, um, um, they seem to have a base and crude view of utal, sweetness, just based on how they were presented, how they seem to present themselves. Again, remove the standard of the world today. That's a bad standard. But if you look at it objectively, there's just a very crude way to view utal that's not proper. And then two, they just seem more concerned with, at least openly, the connection between themselves than any women involved. And again, it seemed like the video was implying that the seeker was looking for women. That's what it seemed like it was implying. Anyway, what am I getting at here? You see, it touched a nerve with me because it seems in line with a lot of stuff that male supremacist individuals do. Say people who are part of the manosphere, people part of the Red Pill movement, dating coaches. I'll even throw in a lot of these pastors who talk about dating and maybe don't label themselves that. Let me move. So, it just seems like I'm just gonna. I'll really talk about both individuals in that video because you have the seeker that seems more obvious, but the middle person, it seems like that's a connection for them as well. But because the job they're doing doesn't seem necessary, it seems like if they're a better version of themselves, they wouldn't be there. But they're investing in that connection, you see. Um, Again, forgive me. I know I'm using a lot of Oreo, but I hope you guys know what I'm getting at here. Um, you see, you're never gonna have a perfect romantic relationship. And again, I think common practice has made me say it in a monogamous fashion. You're never gonna have even one perfect romantic relationship if you're not yourself. And if you're not healthy, you're not yourself. If you're not healthy, you won't even look like yourself. So a lot of male individuals come out and complain about very crudely. Again, I don't want to narrate their evil, but sometimes there's nothing. Very crudely, they'll come out and complain about women and what women are and aren't doing and how they can't find women, but they're not looking after themselves. Maybe they're not at their proper weight. And again, I want to say we shouldn't just look at being overweight, we should look at being underweight. And also, I just want to note, um, it's obvious that you cannot always tell someone's weight related health by looking at them. I'll leave it at that. But it's not impossible. And again, I'm not a conventionally trained medical professional, so just take that into account. I don't want to make it seem like I have credentials I don't have. But it's just like the average person. I have a societal sense of health, and then I will say I've done research into health and things like that. But again, I don't want to say I have credentials I don't have. I'm just putting that disclaimer up with the additional information, just so you know my vantage point on this, because I'm commenting on health stuff. Um, but again, just to say, if someone says not at their ideal weight, if someone is engaging in unhealthy grooming practices, and again, I've talked many times about how a lot of times people engage in grooming practices that there's no evidence have any medical benefit. For example, if your person is meant to grow out a beard, there's not really any evidence that constantly cutting off your beard is healthy. And I will say, a lot of people do injure themselves while quote unquote shaving, so that's evidence is not necessary. And then of course is the practice of shaving off all one's hair, which many male individuals do. Not good. If you do that, you're not moving in line with your nature. So then, how would you find your ideal relationship? And then there's even other things like interactions. I'm a big proponent of making it socially unacceptable to have all male groups. It's not healthy. It's just not healthy to have groups where women are excluded. It's not good. But if a man is constantly or a male individual is constantly in environments where women are excluded, they won't be a good version of themselves. So then, how will they even find a partner? Now, again, obviously, there are people who want relations with people of the same gender. That's not bad at all. That's part of some people's nature. But I'm just commenting on it from the man to woman angle, just because that is the angle that male supremacists tend to take. And I'm just making a point here. We really need to, as a society, start looking into why so many of these individuals, who either explicitly or implicitly, because I will say the behavior on show in that video is implicitly commenting on women in society. I'll just keep it like that. Um, you see, we have to look into why so many of those male individuals who either explicitly or implicitly have a comment about women in society and how they engage in relationships with men, why so many of them refuse to do basic housekeeping before they start throwing stones. You see. And I'll leave it at that. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm just going to leave you with a bonus piece of information. Once again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Eat lemon powder. Eat lemon powder. It's good for your overall well being. Check it out. Thank you very much. See you guys next time.